What's up, y'all? If you've seen the last video, welcome back. If this is the first video you're seeing, welcome to whatever this is. I haven't quite figured it out yet or given this channel a proper name, but what we've been doing in this video so far is working on and focusing on health, just having better habits, changing our lifestyle around a little bit. And one of those things is getting consistent with the gym. If you know from my last video, I talked a lot about how, I'm sort of comfortable with where I am in terms of like health, but things could be way better. Like, I know there's a lot of things that I'm doing or a lot of habits that like I could just simply get rid of and just have a better lifestyle overall. I talk a lot about, like feeling strong, feeling fit, keeping up with basketball, playing sport, running, the gym overall, all around health. Like, I feel decent, but the things I've noticed a lot is feeling lethargic, getting up in the morning, not wanting to get up and go to work sometimes, but I know that's very common with everybody. But with myself, I feel like it's more so literally getting up out of the bed. I feel so heavy, like I'm big back, you know what I'm saying? I'm joking around a little bit, but in all seriousness, bro, it's also taken me a while to start this journey a little bit, just because not having the confidence, because I'm scared of like just failing. I don't know, overall since the last video that y'all seen of me, even if you go look back at it for a reference, I kind of feel like I have like a little bit more confidence than usual. Not than usual, but than last time, I would say. I feel like I'm at a new normal. So I'm gonna just get right into it, bro. I started last week, Sunday. And all the way to Sunday, I completed 1 full week. That's not saying that I'm going to the gym literally every day, but actively changing my habits every day. I take it like a week at a time, basically. And so me making this video is basically at the end of the first week, week 1. I'm just gonna tell you a little bit of what my plan was going into it and how I feel afterwards, how I felt during it. You're not gonna see any gym footage, maybe for like this video and maybe a few more. Just because my gym has been like really packed lately. On top of that, by the time I go to the gym, which is usually right after work, it's usually so packed up by then. Just bear with me for that. I'm gonna try my best to explain the exercises for you guys. I haven't really taken a chance to like get into editing that much. If you see my last video, then you know for sure, bro, that video was not it, but it wasn't meant to be like anything. As you can see, there's a few differences. I cut my hair a little bit. I've noticed for myself, I don't know if y'all can notice, but I slimmed down a little bit just because I've been just getting locked in a little bit too with my diet and going to the gym. Part of this process is getting comfortable in front of this camera. This is something that like I'm not used to. It feels totally different than streaming. I know you guys see the setup. That's one thing that I'm trying to get used to too, is like trying to stream more. But we're not talking about that right now. We're just talking about strictly lifestyle changes in fitness and well-being. And what I can see so far is that starting off for week 1, I was around 200. I got my notebook right here. My starting weight is day 1, basically, when I went to the gym. I ended up going there with my homeboy, and I was 239 pounds. I was gonna just say 240, but to just be super accurate, it was 239. My starting body fat percentage was 19%. I'm gonna include the video too, just so you guys can see how I look starting off before I even like began the workouts. I wanna use that as a reference point, and I'm gonna like, by the end of this video, also show you like my week to week progress, basically. You're gonna see 2 different videos here. You're gonna see a video of me before I started working out, and then you're gonna see how I looked on Sunday when I weighed myself, which I'll talk a little bit about a little bit at the end. But my plan going into this week was to at least keep it somewhat simple. Don't go too hard. I didn't want to obsess over numbers like calories. I know a lot of fitness influencers or a lot of pro bodybuilders or people who are just trying to lose weight, they emphasize on macros a lot, and I found myself overwhelmed by that. I'm gonna probably put some more photos in, and I'm gonna try to put that effort in, put some more photos in. But I've lost weight before, gained weight before, put on pounds, and then like lost muscle. Like, I've tried my best to go through it all. So I think throughout these things that I've been doing, that is different from this time is that I'm just finding a regular steady pace. That's a change of lifestyle. Other times that I've gained weight or lost weight have been very extreme, whether it be drinking water for 2 days straight before eating, and then only having 2 meals before going 2 days again without eating, or only eating like crap in order to bulk up. I mean, I found myself eating things like sardines straight out the can, which, I mean, don't get me wrong, like Not gonna lie, don't tell the homeboys, but I fucks with that. That's pretty good to me. But the thing is with that is that's me restricting myself so much, making it hard for myself so much. But because I want to look a certain way, or I want to see, all right, can I get to this? But those things are kind of like, it's like what you would see on TikTok sometimes. Sometimes people do one on YouTube for challenges, but I'll see it on TikTok and people try to adapt that into their normal life. For some, it may work, but for someone like me, like I can't do that. I'm way too active to just like damn near starve myself. Not even just like with basketball or like running or anything else that I do for sports, but also like with my job as well. I get up pretty early, like around 6 o'clock, all the way to whenever I'm done, which could be around this time, like getting closer to like 6 or 5. Not for nothing, I get hungry. So you have to imagine if I'm eating a strict diet like that, where I'm eating almost nothing, sometimes just water, or when I try to eat like a vegetarian and I'm not even having like plant-based proteins, like I'm starving myself and I find myself drinking throughout the day. And I drive like a lot, especially at work, and I can't afford to just doze off or, you know, feel like I'm gonna throw up or faint, especially when it's hot out. I'm not even getting any nutrients doing that. So it's like, yeah, you can look a certain way, but I think overall what I want to change is my idea of what's healthy and what's not healthy. And like a lot of people, I think sometimes I associate that with how things look. Sometimes you think being thin compared to being bigger is being healthy, but then comparing being muscular to being skinny, being muscular, being healthy. And those things aren't exactly healthy. And also it's just not a healthy mindset to have, because then you just kind of, you obsess over how something looks rather than how you actually feel. And I mean, we're all different. For me, I naturally put on muscle. Some other people, it's harder for them to gain muscle. I had a friend of mine tell me he's about like 5'2", 5'4" maybe. And this dude is like built like a brick, but like a muscular brick. I'm not gonna lie, low key, he's built like Geodude. That's the best thing I can put it. I'm not gonna say his name. I'm not gonna do him dirty like that. But bro is like really, 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 really fucking strong. He tells me all the time, he's like, he daps me up and he'll see me at the gym, he's happy, and he'll be like, bro, if I had your body, bro, pause. He'll be like, if I had your body, bro, I'd be unstoppable. And I'm like, that sounds crazy, but like, I get what he's saying, because some people will see somebody else and think, wow, they want to look like that. Whole time I'm like, bro, like I wish I was jacked like he was, but you know, I don't wish I was short like that. But like I'm saying, everybody's different, and I think that's one thing that like people, including myself, have to remind you ourselves or each other of. And that's one thing I just really wanted to mention in this video. Another portion that's really important to me is the diet aspect, in terms of sort of looking for discipline. Now, the biggest thing for me isn't so much of eating healthy. Sometimes I get obsessed over eating healthy, and I'll go to the store and buy way more apples, lettuce, arugula, spinach, whatever other fruits that I can find. I find myself fascinated over all these things that are healthy, especially because of the way they're marketed, but also because I think, oh, if eating's the number one thing, let me obsess over eating healthy things. So in essence, that's a good mindset to have, but the one flaw in that, at least for me, is that sometimes associating healthy foods with just being healthy, just like anything else, too much of a good thing can be bad. So I've been doing a good job of eating healthy foods, but I find myself sometimes just saying, hey, fuck it, let me just go grab some fruit. I have to remind myself that sugars are sugars at the end of the day. Like, they're not necessarily the best for you unless, you know, you need some energy or, you know, just naturally. I believe it has something to do with your blood. Don't quote me on that. I find myself sometimes in the morning, instead of just bringing one apple, I'll bring like 3. And that's like half of the apple or a quarter of it gone already. And it's supposed to last me at least a week, maybe a week and a half, maybe. So a big thing of that is sometimes obsessing over the good stuff, and you know, still find myself overeating, right? For example, you have a salad, but most things that make a salad good are gonna be the toppings and the dressing. I've experimented with my food a little bit, and I've tried to eat smaller portions, and I've also tried eating bigger portions, but making the toppings or the dressing like dialing it back a lot, or sometimes not having any at all. Have your dressing on your salad. Don't just eat lettuce. Don't just do that to yourself. I'm not gonna say it's terrible. There's people out there that love it. I can't say if you like it, I love it, because I don't. I enjoy salads. One of my favorites would be like adding arugula, iceberg lettuce, because it's just really refreshing. It holds so much water. But then adding it with just a little bit of some type of vinaigrette, which is low calorie. I just don't put a lot of dressing. I just put a little bit. I make sure the toppings that I add are actually healthy. Like I'll add tomatoes. Every now and then I'll add like maybe cranberries. But I always make sure I have cucumbers in there and stuff like that, so that all the other veggies that I'm adding to the salad is actually like you know, decent carbs that keeps me full. It gives me energy as well. I don't just stop there. I'll add like proteins a lot too. I'll add sometimes salmon, chicken, whether it be grilled or, you know, you just cut up some chicken breasts and throw it in the air fryer. So that's one of the other things that I try to do a lot too. Another thing that I do, speaking of like chicken and salmon, is incorporating a lot of protein. So I'm a bigger guy. I'm about 6'3", but never be 6'4". I was gonna say 6'4" on a good day, but I'm not gonna cap like that. 6'3", about 240 pounds. One of the major things with me is just that consumption, just to feel like I'm not tired. Now, sometimes I'll suffer, but a lot of times I need that protein just to keep up throughout the day. My job is physical. I deliver cases of paper, giant machines that are for offices like printers or giant fax machines and stuff like that. That's from like 6 a.m. almost all the way to 5 or 6 or sometimes later. So a big thing is like protein intake. What I've learned in the past and like what I'm seeing now as I'm seeing like how it feels on a daily basis is having more protein not only like gives me energy, but it also lets me feel full like throughout the day. Not just saying eat one meal, at least between meals, you'll find yourself snacking less or not snacking at all, really. That's one of the major things. So the main things that I'm really eating right now is just salads and, you know, chicken or salmon. There's a few other fish out there that you could possibly eat too, but you know, I just try to keep it simple with those two. I know what I like and I try not to overwhelm myself. Let's see here. I'm gonna just talk about how I felt like going into it first. Going into it, like my first week, I kind of felt like when you just feel heavy, like out of your norm. I just felt kind of bloated all the time, lethargic. It was easier for me to just kind of mindset wise, just kind of lay down or hop on the game or just watch a movie, hang out with my girl. But I found myself kind of dreading the fact that I was like, damn, I have to give this up a little bit of at the time just so I can get to the gym or whatever. So when I get out of work, because it's not really in my control, I'd find myself getting out of work about 6 o'clock, 5 o'clock, and by that time the sun's down and I'm tired. But luckily, this past week or so, you know, like right now, I'd be getting out of work or about to get out of work, and it's still really bright out. Like you would think it's around like 2 p.m., maybe 3, but that's one of those things. I could just feel my body not wanting to go sometimes. It was just a mindset thing that I feel like I had to change before I even stepped foot in the gym. By the time I got there, that first workout, leg, chest, not on the first day, but I'm just saying like my normal workouts throughout the week, they felt fine. You know, I just do 3 sets, a certain type of weight. So what usually for me, right, my favorite days to work out are gonna be chest day and then leg day and then back day, full body, but kind of in that order, just because it's just easy. I know a lot of guys kind of tend to do upper body workouts and neglect the legs. I can't afford to do that. As a tall person, already being skinny at one point, like you just look like you're all legs. You can't afford to just be like all big torso and then you just got like just slender legs. It kind of looks funny. No knock to anyone who has that build or likes that build. So my chest day, I would normally do about 2 to 3 different chest workouts, which focuses on like the chest press, incline, and then like a flat bench. I found myself trying to figure out what weight for me is a good like warm up, and then going from the warm up, which would be 1 set, going over and trying to do whatever my actual workout is gonna be. That's one of the tough things. For me, I have strength, but for some reason it doesn't come from weight training. I don't know how to explain that to you. The most I'll really do before the weights is like maybe some push-ups. Maybe I'm getting a little strength from my job. I don't know why I said little. Anyways, so the cool thing about it was not knowing my strength. So I found myself being kind of like surprised by my strength a little bit. That first day, which was chest day, I did chest and triceps, and a buddy of mine was looking at me. He was like, bro, why are you using those? I think I had maybe like 30 pounds trying to do it on the incline. He was like, you can go way higher than that. I think a lot of times I have like a laid back perspective when it comes to that. So I found myself just kind of worried about like, oh no, I'm gonna like hurt myself, or I'm not gonna be able to finish my workout. Then let's skip over to the second day. So day 2 was back in bicep. That's usually a fun day, but it usually ends pretty quickly. I don't know, I go through my like workouts those days pretty quick. So back in biceps consists of usually like a lat pull down, a high row pull. I don't know what you would call that, but it's like a seated row where you just pull it towards you, like a V grip usually. And then I'll usually warm up before all that with like maybe just trying to do as many pull-ups as I can without getting fatigued. You know, that's really tough at my weight when you're not used to it. I never really realized that, but I found myself being able to do maybe about like 3, and that was without breathing. Like I just couldn't focus on breathing and pulling myself up. But obviously doing triceps, triceps is probably like my most neglected muscle. Like it just hurts to do all the time. I got through it and I feel it right away that it just hurts. You know, it makes it harder to do any other workout. So I usually just do those back exercises. Then I just usually do some tricep pulls, like just pulling downward basically. I didn't try it this week, but I think the following week I'm gonna try dips just to see where I'm at. I'm pretty sure it's gonna be something like the pull-ups were, where like it's not gonna be able to do that much. One of the other things I wanted to focus on was just doing like calisthenics. But getting into day 3, let's talk about it. Kind of like a split day between core and doing legs. That was on Wednesday. That went kind of cool. Doing core and doing legs are usually like my fun exercises because I like to mix it up between using the kettlebell or the kettlebell, putting it at your side, and you kind of pull it in the opposite direction while tightening your core, keeping it engaged all the time. I found myself getting like that good, like that good soreness that kind of feels like, oh yeah, I know I'm working out, but you know, nothing hurt at all. That is until I got to legs. Legs is always cool for me. I love doing my lunges, leg extensions. I've been trying to fall in love with doing hamstring curls. And one of the things with hamstring curls is the fact that my hamstrings are weak. I mean, I need to work on my flexibility. I'll do about maybe like half a set and I'll start to feel like that cramp creep up. You know, when like after you play a sport, after you play basketball or something like that, you chill out for a little bit and you feel a slight twitch. So you have to change the way you're sitting real quick, or you probably got to change how you're standing. I found myself doing that in between sets where I need to stand up and stretch a lot in between. I think I'm just really fearful of like really injuring myself a lot or something tearing. I've never experienced that and I kind of want to keep it that way. But I've been gradually trying to get back more into doing my hamstring curls. But leg extensions and always has been like a really fun workout. A fun fact with that actually is that I was injured like a long time ago. I had to kind of in a sense relearn how to walk properly by doing leg extensions to build like quad strength, because can't remember for the life of me what the injury was, but it was in both knees and it was in different areas on both knees. And the issue with that was I wasn't able to extend. I didn't have enough strength in my quad to lift my leg because the ligament was so hurt. Unfortunately, I was trying to play a lot of basketball in between that and do a lot of like running, knowing I shouldn't have, but I didn't want to put my pride to the side. Leg extensions has become one of my favorite leg day like workouts. I'm not gonna say I'm the strongest, but I've seen the difference. I've seen a lot of like definition in my hamstring, in my quads. And it's just cool to look at, like to see where I used to come from, like kind of just having chicken legs a little bit and kind of having like a limp, but those are one of the exercises that was recommended to me through like a physical therapist. So that's just a fun fact for you guys. My next workout would be doing like a squat. So usually when I'll do a squat, I'll just use the dumbbells and I'll literally just do a squat. I haven't done it with the barbell yet. I'm a little afraid to do it because I don't want to fly backwards and I'm kind of afraid of like tearing something in my groin. But that's something I'm gonna work out of. I just need like the perfect flat shoe to do it. All my shoes are pretty much my basketball shoes or running shoes, and they're a little unbalanced for when it comes to something like that. I want to make sure my feet are planted. I don't trust myself enough to just wear socks on the platform to do it. I see a lot of people do it, maybe when I get a little bit more experienced, but I found myself doing squats a couple times with my friends, so I tried it out, and on the Smith machine is where we tried to do the squats, which is a little weird for me because when you try to do it the traditional way, you kind of feel it in your lower back. And I was thinking to myself, okay, maybe I'm supposed to feel like this. Maybe my legs are just weak. Until my friend tells me, no, your feet need to be a lot more forward on the Smith machine because it's slightly slanted. And I kind of understand why the Smith machine gets so much hate when it comes to doing squats. Not because it's assisted, but because you have to change literally the movement altogether. So there's that. I'm fully recovered from that little ache in the lower back, but that's how you know you're doing the exercise wrong. Once I swapped my feet around, I started to realize, okay, the workout's harder, but my lower back doesn't hurt. Like there's not a bunch of built up pressure there. You know, I did that for like maybe, I think we spent a little too much time on that. We ended up doing 3 sets of a warm up, which is 25s. Then we moved up to adding a 25 with 45 plates. I tried my best to focus on my breathing, and I found myself once I got to the 245 plates saying, listen, I'll probably get like maybe 3 reps before I can just give up. Not for nothing, I ended up with like a weird hump on the back of my neck for maybe like 2 days that I just thought was not gonna go away. I was scared I was gonna have like a hunchback. Like it just felt like a huge knot and it just would not go away. Talked to my friends about it and they told me it's about your hand placement on the bars. I found myself going like this a lot, but I need to have my hands out a lot more just to support the bar while I'm going up and down and have it sit on my traps a little bit on my rear delts. Talking about rear delts, so on my 4th day, what I worked on was shoulders, which is like a day that I would usually do like chest, but my shoulders get weak a lot, especially this one where it tends to ache right at the top. I don't know if that's actually a muscle that's hurting or if it's like something against the bone, but I found myself pushing through and trying my best to get it done with like a what would you call that? A shoulder press maybe? Like when you just go straight up with it basically above your head. And I try to keep it slow and controlled, and I found myself able to do a good amount. I did face pulls, which some people say technically isn't like a shoulder workout. They'll say it's a back workout, but it works your rear delts. And I love that workout because you get a good squeeze when you pull back like that and you control it, bringing it back. I try not to be too explosive with that because it's like on your shoulders, and I'm scared of like, because it's a joint, I'm scared of like really hurting myself, and I can't afford to really be hurt because if I'm hurt from a gym injury, that'll kind of keep me from working. So yeah, after that, what is that? That's like our 4th days now, but after doing shoulders is when, that's usually a day when I'll kind of go back and work on like the much smaller muscle groups. Shoulder shrugs for your traps, that's self-explanatory, but I try not to go too heavy with that because when I work out with that, sometimes I feel like this pull in my face. I don't know if it's a nerve thing. If anybody's seeing this and they know what I'm talking about, like that, even when it's not that, if you're just doing a whatever workout and you're pushing yourself, you kind of can't control your face, whether it be like an ugly, like strained face, or sometimes like you just feel like a pull, like you feel like your face is going like that. I don't know how to explain it, but it feels like a twitch you can't control. But those are days I'll do shoulder shrugs. I'll usually take like the dumbbells and like I'll curl them in my hands with my hands down, but curl them like this inward, or practice doing it in the opposite direction like that. And just to kind of work on my forearms a little bit, just because overall I think that'll help me with like grip strength as well. Because throughout these workouts, I also found myself like hands cramping, like either right here on this side somewhere or on the inside, cramping up, where I have to hold the weight with another hand just to put it down because I feel my hand going like this, closing in. Another thing I work on is like calves a lot, which I like to dedicate like by itself on days where I'm not doing cardio. Now, another important thing is 3 days out of the week, I'll be doing incline treadmill walks for about an hour. This is like a cheat code to get your cardio in for those that don't like to run in place or make a lot of noise and like stomp on the treadmill. So what I'll do is usually like I'll start off maybe around like 6 incline, going at like a I'll probably go at like a 3.5 speed, and I'll work my way up to maybe about a 6 usually. And a 6 is usually like it's like a light tread for me. Like, it's not exactly like jogging, but maybe like a speed walk, really, that like you have to like stay conscious of, really. Just enough to get me out my comfort zone so that I sweat a little more. What I'll do usually after the 10 to 15 minute mark is I'll pause it, I'll get a couple sips of water, kind of move my ankles around just so I can feel my calf muscles again. And then what I'll do is quickly resume the walk still, which I'll only take maybe like a 40-second break, maybe not even that usually, depending on like how it's going. But then I'll go ahead and use the incline button again and bring it up to around 12 to 13, and I'll bring the speed down to about like a 1.5 or a 2. Now, what that allows me to do is kind of keep that uphill turn even more, and that speed now, where I was kind of treading, turns into a speed walk. But with that type of incline, you feel it in your hamstrings a little bit, and you start to feel it in your quads. And I think that's kind of because with that incline, like, you can't afford to just be on your tippy toes unless you're running, but I'm not running at that high of an incline. So you start to feel it in all parts of your leg, basically. I'll try to do that for another 15 minutes or so, or sometimes I'll go for a full 30. And then once again, I'll take maybe one more break or 2, depending on if I go for that 15 minutes or if I go straight to 45. And I'll take a break. But after that 45 minutes, I'll usually go straight into that hour mark. I have a video on usually, and that's usually how I'll get through that. And by the time you know it, I'm like, wow, I traveled how far? So usually I'll burn anywhere roughly from 400 calories, maybe sometimes like maybe close to 6, or nearly 600 calories. That's just kind of one of those cheat codes. And like I said, I do that 3 days out of the week. I try to do 2 back to back just to keep some consistency for my mental sake. But I like to take that break in between because sometimes that can be tiring on your joints and you have to take care of those things. With day 4, I almost didn't touch the treadmill because it was so busy at the gym. I was gonna go ahead and do the bike, but at the rate it takes to really burn calories in an hour, it wasn't really gonna be worth the workout for what I was looking for. On top of that, I still need to go do my other stuff. Luckily enough, I did maybe 10 minutes on the bike, burning, maybe like 100 calories or maybe 90. But I was able to get back on the treadmill, and just to make up for like lost time, not really lost time, but wasted time, I felt like, I kind of went over there and worked on, the treadmill again for that 3rd day out of the week, and repeated the cycle with that 13 incline. A lot of times what I found myself doing is that 13 incline feels like nothing to me now, especially to do an hour. But like I said, trying to get that hour of cardio 3 days out of the week, with that incline and that speed, seems like it's the sweet spot that I found. And I feel like I can do that consistently. If it wasn't for the sake of leg pain or like getting fatigued around the ankles and joints like that, I feel like I can do that almost every day. Moving on, so how I felt like towards the end of the week when I weighed myself. By the time I weighed myself, which was in the morning, just because I'm on like an empty stomach and it's like a clean slate, I was 235 pounds, 235.2. So roughly that's losing about I got something in my eye. That's losing about 4 pounds or so, give or take. For those that want to round up and say 240, I guess you could say that's losing 5 pounds. Or I could say going into there, I feel like that's a good mixture of losing both fat from the amount of cardio, but for the amount of water I was drinking, I feel like it was a good amount of water weight too. I try to get somewhere around 2 to 3 liters a day, which is kind of tough to do, but while I'm at work, it's not so hard. I'll buy about 2 water bottles and drink them, or I have my hydro flask, I'll fill up. In between stops, I'll fill up again, or I'll dump another water in there. And before you know it, it's usually over with, especially that last bottle I'll usually finish sometime during my workout or mid-workout, usually around the treadmill time. Working out on the treadmill, I've noticed makes me sweat easily, and I'm somebody who sweats easily already. So I know sweating isn't always a sign of like losing weight, but for my mental, I would say like that helps me out a lot. Get into some other stuff, talking about how I felt post workout week. I felt like I built a little bit of structure. I'm gonna talk about it in the next video, but I found a lot of things that I found a lot of things that seem like good tools. One of those things is, it's one of those things people have had forever. They've been around, but I've never gotten around to one because it was like, I'm never gonna be one of those guys. I ended up being one of those guys. I ended up getting myself an Apple Watch. It does a really good job for what I need it for, which is basically just tracking my steps, my calories, keeping track of my workouts. There's a couple apps out there I'm gonna talk about in the next video, but from what I've seen so far, this thing, it serves its purpose like well. And I try to get somewhere around, between the gym and my job, I try to get somewhere around 10 to 15,000 steps. That might seem like a lot, but I just hear there's a lot of benefits from that. For my job alone, I walk about maybe 5 miles total in terms of steps, but I try to stay on the move a lot, and usually I'm about halfway through my goal in terms of getting my steps done by somewhere between 2 hours or 3 hours into my route. And I like to keep it that way because it keeps me on a steady pace. It keeps me productive. But that's where we're at so far. So I feel like I stuck with my plan a little bit, which was pretty much eating more, salads, staying healthy, excuse me, keeping up with the cardio, which has never been an issue for me. I've always loved doing incline cardio. Like I said, I've tried it every now and then. It's just a matter of staying consistent on the schedule with it. But 3 days out of the week, keeping up with like split workouts. Like I said, my calorie goal somewhere is to burn about 1,000 or so calories a day by the end of the day, not just in the one workout, but just throughout the day. And also just monitoring how much I'm eating, because what's the use of watching what I'm eating if I'm not going to be burning those calories? But I'd rather do it that way and have a rough estimate and go into it softly. That way I'm not burning myself out or getting overwhelmed going into week 2. I want to find something that's consistent and I feel like I can just keep up with naturally. And to lose 4 to 5 pounds a week isn't really what I'm looking for. If I lose a pound a week or 2, I'm cool with that. If we hit 3, I'm working really hard. But I want to keep it under 3 pounds a week because I'm not really in a rush to lose a lot of weight all at once. I want to do something where I lose the weight and I keep it off. So that's where we're at so far. If I could think of anything, I'll add it in there. And like I said, I'm gonna keep trying my best to like use other videos for references or record some workouts at some point, but I won't be doing that anytime soon. Like I said, at least until I feel a little bit more confident and not so like conscious of who's around and stuff. I want to be considerate of other people working out. Some of the other things I'm going to try to do my best of is finding other ways of getting cardio in, whether it be hikes or, going on the track and stuff like that. Like I said, I need a better pair of like running shoes to do so. The ones I have are just shot. They're garbage. But yeah, that's where we're at so far. And if you've made it this far, don't forget to I'm not gonna say don't forget, but if you want, you can subscribe, like the video. If you don't like my sweater, you could tell me in the comments. Let me know, man. It's just really here just to just document what I got going on and just hold myself accountable on like a weekly basis and just see what we can make out of it. See if I transform into something or, if I just stay the same. But the overall goal is just to stay healthy. And if you made it this far, just thanks for watching, man. I'll see you in the next one.